Welcome to On Purpose with Keith and Misti. Thank you for joining us today. As usual, it's all things about life, love, loss, and living on purpose. And we are in for a treat today, and you are in for a treat today because we have a very special guest that I'm going to let Keith introduce.
And thank you so much for joining us today. And we are excited to have with us a very special guest. To many of you, she will be no stranger. She is from the Southern Gospel family, the Crabb family. She's got a story of her own, and her girls travel the world sharing the good news of the gospel through music. We are so honored to have Kelly Crabb with us today. Kelly, welcome to our program.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, it is an honor for us to have you with us today and to just to hang out and see what our stories have to say to other people. And
Absolutely.
So our stories, everybody has a story.
For sure.
And it doesn't matter whether it's large or small or whether you come as someone who has renowned a face on social media and maybe even a superstar in sports or TV. It doesn't really matter who you are. We all go through things in life and we all struggle. But you know, one thing that we all have in common is that there is a God and He is able to help us if we'll just let Him.
Amen. Absolutely.
So why don't you go ahead and just tell us a little bit about your story?
Sure.
And which I'm sure most of you probably have some semblance, but if you don't, we're going to let Kelly share a little bit about what she has gone through in the last few years.
So you introduced me, but I'll say I'm Kelly. I do sing. I've spent many years traveling, singing with my family. The Crabb family, my girls and I currently tour and travel together. And in 2021, January, I went through a very abrupt and devastating divorce. I had been married 23 years.
Oh, wow.
We were in family ministry together. So everything in my life changed. Every single aspect of my life changed, from ministry to our home to my children's lives. And it was devastating and heartbreaking. And I honestly did not think I would survive it. But somehow, God in all His goodness has helped me to kind of dig my way through it, dig my way out of it. And not only has He helped us survive it, He's helped us thrive and live beyond such horrific pain and devastation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as we talked earlier, that's just the way God is. He does help us thrive.
He does.
And it is so good to know Him and to know that that He is going to help you. You know, we talked earlier while we were getting to know each other and talk about what we were going to talk on the program about. Unless you've been through something, you really don't know the God that will bring you through that particular circumstance, whether it's death or divorce.
That's it.
So what was it like, which viewers know that Keith and I have our own grieving process and we've been very open with it. His was a caffeine addiction. Mine went to alcohol.
Well, I would go at nighttime. I don't share this a lot, but I have shared it some. But at nighttime, I would find a club to go to. It's just you don't want to sit at home alone.
Yeah.
I don't know if you experienced this going through divorce or not, but after being married 28 years and having a home with a wife and a child, even though he was at college at the time, I walked into an empty house.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, it didn't matter if I was at the house or where I was at. There was an empty feeling there.
Yeah.
There was just a disconnect to life. And so you're struggling. And we know the Lord is there. I've been involved in ministry. I've told people He's the comforter. I have helped people walk through the valley of the shadow of death and divorce and financial problems and all of that. But to get to that point yourself, it's a lonely spot.
It is.
And so I would find myself most of the time at night searching. And I went to, I wouldn't drink because I just would not drink and drive. And not that I mean, if I was going to drink and drive or something, you know, I didn't want to Uber and leave my car sitting.
Right.
But, you know, I would go to the club and stay, or I would go to Starbucks and stay till 11 and then go to Waffle House and stay till 3 or 4, until I'd fall asleep. And so anyway.
But everybody grieves differently.
Yeah.
So do you mind sharing like some of the things that helped you through that process?
Well, of course, God goes without saying. The Lord was near, and He spoke to me so directly, and I'll maybe tell you a little bit about that later. But at first, there's no blueprint for when your life just kind of explodes in your face, you know, and everything, nothing's really familiar.
Yeah.
And it's just like you're just trying to just save what you can, you know what I mean? So at first I was really mad.
Yeah.
And, you know, I grieved. It was a process for me. It was like grabbing your bearings and figuring out, okay, who am I without that person? And how you go through if you've been betrayed, you go through a lot of you feel stupid.
Right.
You feel ashamed. You feel embarrassed. You feel rejected. So there's all of these, along with the grief of the loss of the person. I personally had to deal with all of this other stuff of, was it my fault? Is it because I'm not enough?
Right.
All of these other things that come with it. So it was a process. And at first I was just sad and mad.
Yeah.
Sad and mad. Sad and mad. Back to sad. Oh, we're mad.
Yeah.
You know, my poor kids, they saw it all. And I mean, I ripped curtains off the walls. I'm very candid about it because I remember one night I called my mom and I'm like, I had ripped the curtains off the walls. I was so mad. This was like a weekend. And then I broke a lamp. And I'm like, and I think I felt the confession's good for the soul.
Yeah.
So I called my mom and I'm like, I broke a lamp. And she said, was it an expensive lamp? And I said, no, it was a cheap lamp. She said, oh, honey, it's fine. Don't worry about it. So, you know, you learn that it's a roller coaster, as I say. And one of the best things that happened to me during that season, and that especially the early part of all this, the initial shock, was the lady who represented me in my divorce as a family friend. And she said to me in her office one day, she said, I just need one thing from you. And I was like, what? You know, it's your lawyer thinking what? And she handed me a card. And she said, this is a family, she's a counselor. She specializes in girls. And she's a believer. She's full of the word of God. I want you to call her. And I called her on behalf of all of us. And that was a game changer for me.
Wow.
To get to be able to sit down. And, you know, your family will validate you but you think, are they validating me because they love me?
Right.
It was so good for me to hear another believer that did not know me say, you have every right to be angry.
Yeah.
It's okay that you're sad.
Yeah.
Of course you're sad. And just sort of it helped me go, okay, this is normal. This is part of the process. And then just to learn to trust that process.
Yeah.
You said something about identity a minute ago, and when we do our identity, we think our identity is in our family and is all that, but really our identity is in the Lord. I don't want to super spiritualize it, but when we get the wind knocked out of our sail, whether it was me sitting and my wife got diagnosed with cancer, or you know Misti's husband passing, you going through divorce, we really have to get that foundational identity reset, because
Absolutely.
the enemy will use that to try to tell you, and he'll use people to come at you.
For sure.
I went through counseling as well. And somebody said, is it helping? I said, I don't know. I give him $150 and I sit there and cry when he asks me 3 questions, but I'm still standing at the end of it. And so I guess it does help. It helps you to reestablish that identity, to refocus, because they don't. It does. They don't know you.
They don't know you. And it's nice to hear someone else's perspective. That for me, it was very important, of course, that she's a firm believer and she's full of the word of God. She'll quote scriptures at me left and right. But it was very, it was the kind of affirmation that I needed for someone to say it's okay to be mad. I always say I spent my whole life kind of living by the rules. I'm a rule follower.
Yeah.
I wanted to be the good girl, just because and that's a whole nother story, but, you know, feeling kind of average and thinking, but I'll be good.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not that talented. I'm not that whatever, but I'm good. I'll be good. And I think there was a part of me subconsciously that thought that God would be impressed by my good.
Yeah.
And this season has taught me that
so
when
good.
I wasn't good and when I was mad and throwing lamps, he still loved me just the same.
Yeah.
He's not a performance-based God.
That is so good, because when I was going to the counselor, one of the things they asked me, he said, what's bothering you? He said, there's something. And I said, well, I'm a believer. And I said, part of what that I'm doing is I go to the club and I'll sit. And I said, and then, you know, I have the doctor telling me that I need to drink a glass of wine before I go to bed at night. And I said, these things bother me. He said to me, and it was to me, it was profound. He said, do you think that the God of heaven is going to keep you out of heaven because you go sit in your loneliness in this place, or that your doctor recommends that you take a drink of wine to help you through? Because I'm not a drinker,
Right.
you know, but the doctor said, take this 1 hour before you go to bed and you'll be able to sleep at night and not be sitting at the coffee house till 4 in the morning.
Right.
And so the counselor helped me through that, because my religious mindset told me that I couldn't do that without going to hell.
Right.
Or without separating myself from ministry.
Or that somehow you were, that God was going to up there just with his finger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because you threw a lamp. Okay.
How many other people have done that
Yes.
that nobody found out
Yeah.
about?
Like, God is not going to, you're not going to get your heaven card revoked because God, you know, she helped me to sort of go, you are in grief.
Yeah.
And your whole life has changed. God is still who he is, but God understands that you're in a human body.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And we do tend to super spiritualize things.
Mm-hmm.
And, but we should on so many levels, but it's okay to look at ourselves too and go, we're humans.
Right.
Hearts are breakable.
Yeah.
And you don't just wake up. What I've always said, because I was raised Pentecostal and I am Pentecostal, but there are some things you go through that the Lord will require a process for the healing.
Right.
I've seen people healed instantly, and I believe in it.
Yeah.
But sometimes, for instance, when you go through a divorce, there's a really good chance you're going to have to walk through a process to be healed.
Sure.
And we can pray at the altar, and we should pray at the altar.
Sure.
There's a real good chance you're going to have to work through it more than just there.
Just in that.
Because you have to
scene.
go home and pick up the pieces of your life and figure it out.
Right.
And so it's been just a very enlightening experience, but it's also been a sweet experience understanding God as a father.
Yeah.
And he is such that. And let me preface what I said, that we don't promote alcohol.
Of
drinking
course,
alcohol or anything.
yes.
I'm just saying that those things were bothering me because
Yes.
that's what I was going through at the time.
Yes.
But I think what's interesting is that because I dealt with anger, and I think we forget that we're made in the image of God, and the emotions we have, he has.
Right.
It says in Scripture,
Yes.
he's angry, he mourns, that he laughs.
Right.
So those emotions are not part of the fallen state. They're part of the image of God.
Right.
And so I said, short of sin, even Scripture says, be angry and sin not.
Yeah.
So, that's just part of the process of, and I said, no one grieves the same because we're all built differently emotionally. And like where Keith and I, even though like I had a business and he was in ministry, but not to the level that you were in the public eye. So that's a whole different gamut that you had to deal with. Mm-hmm. And then your girls,
Yeah.
one of whom is here with us behind the scenes, Gracie. She's beautiful. And listen,
You have
all these
beautiful
girls,
Let me just
Thank
say,
you.
you have done a phenomenal job.
Kelly
with your
and her
daughters.
three
Very proud of
girls sing to, I'm going to have to go repent for jealousy. But I mean, that's like a whole nother thing because you've got people, like, we have people say, let's just be real. People say stupid stuff.
Yeah, they do.
Okay. But
They
oh
can
my
be
gosh,
incredibly
I
rude.
I can't even imagine. So let's just kind of fast forward a little bit to the fact that you got married again.
I did.
Recently.
Yeah.
So tell us about what that was like that moment. Did you have a moment where, so like I, for several months, was like, I'm not marrying anybody else.
Yeah.
Even though I was only 31. I was like, I just couldn't imagine that.
Yeah.
But then to open up again,
Yeah.
is a very interesting
It's a
process.
tricky
So,
experience.
like,
Yeah.
when did you hit that moment, and how did you know, like, okay, I'm ready to find that person again?
I don't know that I did know. It just sort of happened.
Okay.
For me. And we knew each other.
Okay.
And we had gone through not the exact same situation, but a similar situation. We had both kind of gotten our hearts broken. And so we kind of went through divorce around the same time.
Wow.
And he worked for us. I've known him for 12 years.
Oh, okay.
And it's weird. Someone can be in front of you and you never notice them. I mean, and it's like I knew him, hi, we're on the bus. Hey, but I didn't know him at all. No real conversations at all. I never really dealt with him that much.
He did his job. And
I was always being a mom and singing or whatever. So, he sent me this text one afternoon and it said, "You look great in pink." And I thought someone should tell you. Aww. And I remember I was in the back of the bus and I went, huh. Like I raised an eyebrow and I was like, I kind of put my phone down and I had to think about
where did that come from?
How do I feel about that? I don't think I feel horrible about that. So it just sort of started from there. And I don't know that I was totally ready, but I don't know that you ever are.
Yeah.
You just sort of have to take that leap of faith.
Sure.
And it was just sort of this unexpected. The Lord is so good. He's in all the details. This unexpected surprise from a girl who felt very betrayed and had trust problems. Here's this person that I sort of already know him. I already know he's a patient person. I already know his temperament. He's a kind person. So I didn't have to just go. It wasn't a total, complete stranger.
Right.
And that, I think, helped me. And I knew, he'd been around my children already. All the things that really I was very concerned about.
Yeah.
It was sort of already taken care of. And it just was sort of this sweet turn of events in my life that if you would have told me 5 years ago, I would have said, you're insane. That's not possible. But it's been a sweet, sweet turn of events.
I want to ask you this because I had the same question posed to me, similar question posed to me by an actor that found out about Misti and I's story, and he called and wanted to know how did we do this? Because he had lost his wife. Actually, it's coming up on a year in February where he lost his wife to breast cancer. And so I'm out playing golf with him, and we stop on a hole, and he stops and he looks at me and he said, "You really love Misti, don't you?" And I said, "I really do." And he said, "How did you make room in your heart to love two people?" And I said, "John, I really didn't do that." I said, "It just evolved. It was something that happens." And I think that is so key, that if we're open, the Lord wants to do so many beautiful things in our lives if we'll just be open to it. Misti wasn't open because of the hurt she went through with the guy that she was dating, and he brought her to the edge of marriage 3 times in engagement and left. So there's so many things that can break our hearts.
Yeah.
But if we'll let the Lord, and we'll shut the mouths of those that are speaking the naysayers that tell us it can't be, or you shouldn't do that, it's not long enough.
Right.
Nobody fills your time and directs your life like the Lord does.
That's it.
It may not fit the human time.
Right.
But in the Lord's time, whether it's a month or 2 years or 5 years or 20 years.
Yeah. And the Lord's no one else is living your life. They don't really know your life. So they can, and this has taught me, I don't think I was ever a super judgmental person, but boy, going through something this personal and getting a lot of outside of opinions, you really learn, you don't really know what someone's going through unless you're living their life.
That's exactly right.
And I will say, back to the opening my heart again, I did continue to see my therapist, counselor, whatever you want to call her, and we would have to talk through things. That's very important, or it was for me.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to take old wounds into a new relationship.
That's so
Exactly.
true.
And she really brought that to my attention, and I would tell her something that made me insecure, just stuff that, just regular stuff. And she would say, okay, you have to be very careful. You cannot take that in. You don't make the new person pay for what the old person did.
Oh, that's so good.
And so
That
that helped me really kind of help navigate. And it wasn't perfect. Nothing is. It was bumpy at times because I was still healing. And, but with the right counsel and with, if it's God, I just think you'll know as a believer, you just sort of get a peace that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think that God, in his mercy, which we were talking about this, like how good he is, the fact that because I can't imagine the betrayal part, right? So, because mine was a finality.
Yeah.
And I remember saying, you say stuff to yourself, and I'm sure you did this too. You say stuff to yourself in your grieving process to try to find some positivity.
Yeah.
And I remember saying, I didn't have to watch him suffer, and I didn't have him walk out on me.
Yeah.
And so I can't imagine that feeling and how that trust is broken. Kind of like I said, someone that has infidelity in their marriage.
Yeah.
I can't imagine rebuilding that trust.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think, it's interesting that you saw this person in his real element, not in his pursuit element,
Right.
but in his he's one of the gang
Yeah.
kind of element. And that I think that's just like God smiling on you to say, this trust walk is easier
Right.
because you're not meeting some stranger and
Yes.
trying to figure out, is he real or is he not
Totally
real?
the kindness of the Lord.
Yeah.
If you really know me, and you know how I'm an overthinker, and all the things that my therapist had said, write down what you would want in a future. And I remember thinking, oh, this is premature. I will it felt so soon, but I did it. And I didn't write someone I already knew, but trust was so important. And someone, even for me, and this might be really personal to say, but my kids have been through a lot.
Yeah.
Can't imagine.
A lot, and in front of people.
Yeah.
And I wrote on the list, I would prefer it to be someone that doesn't have children. If that could be your will, God, I'm open to whatever, but I would prefer it to be someone that doesn't have children, because I know what a blended family is, and I know how hard it is, and I don't know that I'm up for the task. I don't know that I would be for 10 years.
Yeah.
Because I'm dealing with navigating my own, and it wouldn't be fair to the, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, and he doesn't have children.
Wow.
And I would love him if he did.
Sure.
Yeah. But I just thought, wow, God, the kindness of God, that I wanted to be able to focus on my girls. And I hope that doesn't sound selfish. I'm from a blended family.
Absolutely
So
not.
I'm from a blended family, and I realize what it really entails to do it right.
And we get it, because
Yeah.
Misti's had to work through that with me having a son and Misti not having children. Of course, it was a good thing, we think, but we get it.
Yeah.
It's tough. And I come from a divorced family. My father and mother divorced when I was 26, and
Yeah.
it broke my heart.
And when families blend and do it well, it's so beautiful. I'm a testament of that. My family is a blended family, so I'm a big believer in them. But I just knew at that moment for my kids, I just felt like, man, that would be so much more on them to navigate.
Yeah.
And so, God, if it could be your will,
Yeah.
when he comes, I hope that maybe he doesn't,
Yeah.
I mean, had he had 6 kids, that would have just been a whole different thing, right? So,
Right. Yeah.
And I would have loved them. I do love kids, but
Yeah. And God gives you grace.
he gives you the
everything.
grace. For
Well,
sure.
we are coming down to the end of this segment. I think we could probably do another one, but it's up. We'll see if we have time and enough content. But thank you so much for joining us for this segment. It might be that we come back and talk about your book and the
go ahead
process
and-
of
We've still got a little bit of time.
doing that,
We've still
but,
got time, so she can talk about her book.
she
Go ahead
can
and-
talk about her book. So,
So is this written out? It says, "This is my story."
Yes. So this is my story. It's just that season. I wrote the season of. It starts with sort of November, and then everything kind of blew up in January. And there was a phone call that took place in November, and I sort of knew, okay, this is going south. And then by January, I got kind of the confirmation and the real phone call. But it kind of walks through that process. I mean, again, we're in family ministry, and we had to sing like 48 hours later.
Wow.
wow.
So without the lead singer. So
Wow.
it was a lot. And it kind of just takes you through the journey. It's month by month of kind of what it was like to walk through it and how God helped every step of the way.
So it'd be a great resource for someone who's walking through the muck of life,
Yes.
and they need to have some encouragement.
Yes.
And so why don't we're going to put Kelly's information up. It'll be posted on the screen, and you can have the information there. I guess go to your website
Yes.
And pick up the book. Is it out in stores or on Amazon?
No,
or anything
it's just
like
through
that?
the website.
Just through the
Yeah.
website. Okay.
And what's the website? Just-
Kelly Crabb and the BowlingSisters.com.
Kelly
For our
Crabb
Crabb has
and
two
the
Bs.
Bowling Sisters
Yes.
.com. Kelly Crabb and the Bowling Sisters.com. Go on her website, pick up her book. If you're a pastor, schedule them to come into your house and minister. I know that they will bring the glory down. We kind of have followed them from afar, and that's why we wanted to have Kelly come and share her story. We knew it would help people.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been. I feel like we share a lot of the same things
I feel
because
that,
I'm analytical
Yes.
to the core. I rationalize everything to the core.
Yep.
So yeah, we'll have to have some more conversations.
Absolutely.
So thank you
y'all.
so much for being here and
Thank you,
taking
guys.
time. Thank you, Gracie, for coming and blessing us with your presence. And we
Thank
hope
y'all
to
for having
meet
us.
Caitlin and hope.
Yes.
At some
We'll
point.
bring them next time.
Yes.
That's
Come and
fantastic.
serenade us on our podcast.
Well, we are Keith and Misty, and so if you want to connect with us, you can go to our website, www.keithandmisty.com. Our social media outlets, Facebook, Instagram, they carry information on us. A brand new YouTube channel, Keith and Misty. If you'll go to that, we've got great content coming out. So stay with us, come back another time, and join us for our continued versions of our podcast.
Thank you all. We'll see you on the next episode.